When the greatest empire in human history loses, it usually takes decades of decline. But Rome's most devastating defeat didn't come from a foreign king, a massive rival empire, or a lack of military might. It came in a matter of days. It resulted in the total annihilation of 20,000 invincible soldiers. And the most terrifying part for the Romans? The architect of their destruction was one of their own. The autumn of 9 AD, 3 Roman legions, Legions 17, 18, and 19, were marching through the Teutoburg Forest in northwestern Germania. Their commander was Publius Quinctilius Varus, a man of senatorial family, a trusted administrator, a general with no particular military genius, but with the full confidence of Emperor Augustus. The weather had turned. Rain soaked the forest floor into mud. The columns stretched for kilometers through trees so dense that formation discipline, the thing that made Roman armies invincible, was impossible to maintain. Walking beside Varus was Arminius. Arminius was a chieftain of the Cherusci tribe and one of Rome's most decorated auxiliary officers. Born around 18 BC into the Germanic aristocracy, he had been sent to Rome as a child, a political hostage, the standard mechanism Rome used to ensure the loyalty of frontier peoples. Rome educated him. Rome trained him in Latin, in Roman law, in Roman military tactics. He absorbed everything. He served with distinction in the Pannonian campaigns. Rome rewarded him with citizenship and the rank of equestrian, the second tier of Roman nobility. He was, by every formal measure, a Roman officer. Varus trusted him completely. Arminius had been guiding the column for days. The ambush began on the second day of the march. What Arminius had understood from his years inside the Roman military machine was precisely the gap between Roman power and Roman vulnerability. On open, flat ground, the Roman legion was effectively unbeatable. The disciplined formation, the interlocking shields, the coordinated advance, these required space, they required visibility, they required the ability to maintain cohesive unit structure under attack. Take all three away, and the legion became a column of exhausted men in heavy armor stumbling through mud and roots with no room to form and nowhere to face. Arminius had spent months building a coalition of Germanic tribes while maintaining his role as Varus's trusted advisor. He had selected the terrain with the precision of a man who had studied the Roman military manual from the inside. The Germanic forces were not massed for open battle. They were positioned along the tree lines, above the embankments, at the natural choke points of a forest route that Arminius himself had recommended to Varus as the fastest path through. When the attack came from every side simultaneously, the Roman column had no response. The soldiers who tried to form defensive positions found no space. Officers trying to transmit commands could not be heard above the noise and the trees and the rain. Units that attempted to maneuver collided with other units. The Germanic warriors, fighting in their own terrain against men they could see but who could not see them clearly, struck and retreated and struck again across 3 days of continuous fighting. All 3 legions were destroyed. Varus committed suicide on the 3rd day rather than face capture. His body was found on the battlefield, partially buried by Germanic soldiers who understood the symbolic weight of what they had done. The 3 eagle standards, the most sacred objects in the Roman military, the embodiment of each legion's honor, were taken. When the news reached Rome, Augustus Caesar, the man who had built the greatest empire the Western world had ever seen, who had defeated Antony and Cleopatra, who had closed the doors of the Temple of Janus for the first time in centuries to announce a world at peace, was found wandering his palace at night, striking his head against the walls, shouting into the empty corridors, "Varus, give me back my legions." The legions never came back. The numbers 17, 18, and 19 were never reassigned to new units. In the Roman military system, where legion numbers were routinely reused after dissolution, this was unprecedented. These 3 numbers were retired permanently. And while Rome would later launch brutal, blood-soaked revenge campaigns under the general Germanicus to bury their dead and hunt down the lost eagle standards, they completely abandoned the dream of conquering the region. They did not attempt to re-establish the eastern Germanic frontier. The empire pulled back to the Rhine and stayed there. The border of the Roman world, the line that would eventually become the cultural boundary between the Romanized West and the Germanic East, the line that shaped the entire subsequent history of Europe, was not drawn by Roman strategy. It was not drawn by natural geography. It was drawn by a man who learned everything Rome knew about war and used that knowledge to ensure Rome would never use it east of one river again. Arminius was killed by members of his own tribe in 21 AD, 12 years after the Forest. He had become too powerful for the people he had liberated to allow him to live. Rome did not kill him. His own success did. Tacitus, writing about his death, produced one sentence that has not been improved upon in 2,000 years of historical writing. He was, without doubt, the liberator of Germania. Rome trained him. Rome named him. Rome gave him the tools, the knowledge, and the rank. And when he used all of it, the empire that believed loyalty could be taught learned the one lesson its entire military history had failed to prepare it for. The most dangerous soldier Rome ever produced was the one Rome was most certain it owned.